Welcome to St Augustine, Florida. This is Diane and Denise of the History Ghost Bump podcast, and we're taking you on a haunted history walk of Cordova Street in the city of St Augustine, which is the oldest city in America. It was founded in 1565 and is thought to be one of the most haunted cities in all of America. Its long history, along with a large number of people who died from yellow fever, pirate attacks, and war, probably account for that fact. The city has existed for over 440 years and takes its name from the day upon which the city was founded by Pedro Menendez de Avilés, the Festival of St Augustine. Hi, this is Diane.
And this is Denise
of the History Ghost Bump podcast, and we are going to take you guys on a walking ghost tour of Cordova Street in St Augustine, Florida. We're going to do all the work for you. We're doing all the walking. All you have to do is sit back and enjoy.
And you'll be able to see it since we're doing it in the daytime so you can see it, because at night it might be difficult to see on video. So we're out here in like 94-degree heat just for you all.
So you can see in the background, that's Ripley's Auditorium, where their Believe It or Not museum is. That's the Castle Warden. Very haunted, but not a part of this tour. So we're starting here at the visitor center. This is a great place to park. If you come into town, they have a lot of parking here. You do have to pay, but then you can go into the visitor center and they have a variety of pamphlets and different flyers that you can pick up for different sightseeing things. You can get tickets for the trolleys. Huguenot Cemetery is right outside the visitor center and is surrounded by a wonderful wrought iron fence. There are several Catholic cemeteries in the city, but when yellow fever came through in the 1800s, there was nowhere to bury the Protestants. This cemetery was founded in 1821 as the public burial ground. The name Huguenot comes from the 16th century French Huguenots that were massacred by the man who established St. Augustine, Pedro Menendez. There are rumors of supernatural activity in this cemetery. We have 3 headstones here. One of them is the grave of Erastus Nye.
He was a wily guy in life and is now a trickster in death. He likes to poke people and hates it when people take pictures of his headstone. And that's actually true. One time when we were doing a ghost tour here, Diane was trying to get a picture of that headstone, and our camera that was working perfectly fine right before and perfectly fine right after would not work to take that picture. Another ghost here belongs to Judge John B. Stickney. He contracted dengue fever before traveling to D.C. in 1882 for a conference with other judges. He died there and his body was shipped back. He was buried here, but then his children decided to ship him back to D.C. in 1903. The gravedigger stole his gold teeth before shipping the body. Soon after, his ghost was seen in the cemetery, probably looking for those gold teeth.
So, do you see any ghosts wandering around here? It's a very cool cemetery. As you walk away from the Huguenot Cemetery and you start your way down Cordova Street, here on the corner of Orange Street and Cordova is Potter's Wax Museum, but it's also the Old Drugstore. It used to say that it was the oldest drugstore, but I think that they weren't able to prove that it was the oldest, so now they just call it the Old Drugstore.
As you can see now, it's a wax museum and all sorts of things.
The original entrance here was built in 1875, and today it is full of antiques and other oddities, including the Wax Museum. On the other side of it, go. On the other side of it is a cemetery, which might be the reason why it's purported to be haunted. Take a little quick look inside. See all the cool drugstore memorabilia and stuff. Here's the outside of the building. Paranormal activity that is reputed to happen here is cold spots, objects are shifted around, and shadowy figures. Here's one of the old city walls. You can see that it's made out of the coquina. They've painted it a hideous green color for some reason. I'm not sure why.
Pretty soon we're coming up to one of my favorite places. It's going to be called the Love Tree.
Yeah, so this is the Love Tree Cafe. And as you can see, it also hosts a ghostly encounter ghost tour. We've been on that one. It's pretty good.
That was Rafiki's first ghost tour.
But this is the Love Tree. And if you can't tell why it's called the Love Tree, Denise, explain to them why it's called the Love Tree.
Yeah, so you might notice that there's a tree with a palm tree growing out the middle of it, so it's completely encased the entire palm tree the other tree has. So when this happened, they called them love trees. And it's said that if you are to kiss the one you love under this tree, it will cement your union forever. Because the other thing with the love trees is that they cannot be separated. If we tried to separate this tree, or if anybody tried, it would kill both the trees. So that's why they came to that if you kiss under a love tree, then you'll have everlasting love and it will never be separated.
Now behind it is the cafe that is named for it. This little cottage was built in 1923. And, of course, it is reported to be haunted. And one of the reasons why might just be because it's next door to this, which is the Tolomato Cemetery. Now, things that go on inside of the cafe, and we have been inside of there when we did the ghostly encounter tour, objects being moved around, apparitions are seen, your typical hauntings.
You're now looking at Tolomato Cemetery, which is a Catholic cemetery. It's the oldest planned graveyard in America. Burial ceased here in 1881. Ghostly activity is rampant in the cemetery. Strange lights and apparitions are plentiful. A white mist makes a regular appearance here, and there is a full-bodied apparition of a little boy that is seen playing in the limbs of a large oak tree, which we're going to show you in a little bit as we walk past. People claim that his name is James. And also, I will tell you, that's one of the first places where your host, Diane, decided to tempt spirits. And I'm like, what are you doing? She kept saying, hello, are you there? Can you come? Can you sit in the limb for me to get a picture? There's a marker with the names James belonging to a child of 5 in the graveyard. The spirit of Bishop Verrett and Father Varela walk the grounds. Perhaps they seek their bones that used to be housed in the little chapel at the back of the cemetery. Hundreds of sightings have been reported of a female figure in white, who some suggest is a ghost bride. She apparently has long gray hair running down her back, but many believe that hair is actually a veil. And one of the things when we did our ghost tour here, we were standing kind of in this alley right here where this little car is, and our host was sharing with us. At one time he was on a tour, and a girl who was a non-believer was up against the fence, and pretty soon something grabbed her and would not let her go. Let's just say she became a...
As we continue down Cordova Street, we come to the Southern Wind Inn. This is a bed and breakfast. It's 18 Cordova Street. There's the sign there. This B&B dates back to the turn of the 20th century. It's built from coquina. And it's really hard to tell because they've put whitewash over the coquina. But just wonderful columns that you can see here, and then you've got the upper and the lower verandas. You might want to watch that second floor balcony up there. Apparently we have another lady in white here. Denise, can you believe it? Another lady in white?
A lady in white? You've got to be kidding me, Diane.
She's been seen standing or sitting on the balcony, and some guests claim to see her inside in the hallways or on the stairs. Could this be the same lady in white that is from the cemetery? Because the cemetery, see where the chain link fence is right there? That's a cemetery. And here's the inn. Not a very far walk for a lady in white.
Not very far at all.
Who knows? Maybe it's the same one. People also claim to feel cold spots here and hear disembodied footsteps. Okay. Now, as we continue down Cordova Street, right next door to the Southern Wind Inn is another bed and breakfast. Imagine that here in St. Augustine. This place is full of them. It's Casa de Solana.
This actually used to be a funeral parlor. It was constructed in 1904 as a Mediterranean-inspired two-story home. The first owner was George A. Coley. He founded the St. Augustine Transfer Company. It next was owned by P.F. Carcabra, who ran a cigar factory, and then it became the Garcia Funeral Home. The home started its new life as a bed and breakfast in the 1990s. The ghost that resides here is known as Randolph. He is mischievous and blamed for things going missing. He apparently returns them later. The current owner, who was refurbishing the house and had items packed up in boxes, one day watched as the boxes emptied themselves and things were picking themselves up and flying around the room and crashed to the floor. People claim to feel as though someone is watching them, and odd, unexplained noises are heard. Dark figures has also been seen here.
This is 20 Cordova Street. And just a really nice balcony up there. Across the street from Casa de Solana is the Centennial House Inn, and this is just one that is being featured by us just for history's sake. There actually is not a ghost in this bed and breakfast. This was built in the 1790s for a man named J.D. Oliveros. He was a St. Augustine councilman, and we say it's pretty unique here in St. Augustine, not because it's blue, not because it's built out of wood, which does make it kind of unique in St. Augustine, but because it doesn't have any reputed ghosts. Most bed and breakfasts here claim to have ghosts. And we'll just keep heading up Cordova Street here. It's a really neat street, just lined with all kinds of wonderful old buildings. And as we're making our way up Cordova Street, this is going to be the Old Powder House Inn. This is another bed and breakfast. Before this bed and breakfast was here, the Spanish military built a dome-shaped coquina building here for storing ammunition and gunpowder, hence why it's called the Old Powder House. It was back in the 1700s. They placed it here, which would have been outside of the city walls, just in case it decided to
Blow up.
Exactly. The inn was moved here from another location in 1901. And as you can see, it's a pretty big place, so that would have been quite the endeavor. It served time as a store for a while, then it was also fashioned into apartments, became the bed and breakfast in 1989. Supposedly there are 3 ghosts inside this location. One is a 5-year-old girl who died of consumption here in the early 1900s. And another ghost is Mrs. Capo, who likes the place to be kept neat. She'll line up shoes at night, move knickknacks around, and don't leave your bra out, ladies, because she'll put it where it belongs.
On your boots?
Not there, but she'll pack it away for you.
Oh, okay.
We're not quite sure who the 3rd ghost is. We haven't been able to find any information on it, but just a cute looking place here. Really neat.
Very neat.
That's the Old Powder House Inn. This is a really cool looking building here too. This is Grace United Methodist Church. Again, another building built out of coquina. Here's a really good up close of the coquina. This is on the wall that's on the outside, so that's what coquina looks like. And there's a wall that's built all the way down here. Here on the other side of Cordova Street is Scarlett O'Hara's restaurant. The food here is described as all American.
And of course it has a little bit of a Gone with the Wind theme to it. Originally this was two different homes. One was built by George Colley, and he owned the St Augustine Transfer Company. He built it for his fiancée in 1879. The other home was a little knockabout place that a former lighthouse keeper built in the 1870s. They were joined later to build the restaurant. George Colley's story is rather tragic in that he built the house for his fiancée, and she left him for a younger, good-looking soldier. George eventually married another woman, but sometime after that, George was found drowned in his bathtub. No one knows if it was accidental or suicide. And of course, there are some who also claim that it was murder. There was broken glass all about. The restaurant opened in 1979. From that time, tales of the ghost of George haunting the place have been rampant. The upstairs bar is named the Ghost Bar in his honor. One tale is about a picture of George in the bar. It was placed on the chimney across the bar, but every morning it was moved back to the other place behind the bar. They would stay late to catch the prankster, but never did. They finally bolted the picture to the chimney, and at that point it stopped moving. Another night, the alarm went off when the employer locked up and the cops were called. The officers investigated, one upstairs and the one down. When the officers downstairs started to join his partner, the partner ran down the stairs in fear. He explained through gasping breaths that an antique barber chair had swiveled around toward him and nobody was in it. They checked all the windows in every other area and found no one. The men's room is known to have activity as well. Men go in and are touched and come running out in fear. Dark shapes have been seen walking by the first floor bar and entering the kitchen. A bartender named Captain Tom claims that he saw a man sitting down at the end of the bar, and when he walked down to offer him something to drink to see what he wanted, the man disappeared. He said that it did not look like George, so perhaps two ghosts are here. There are also the typical lights playing around and the thermostat changing.
We'll continue down Cordova Street. We continue up Cordova Street. We come to the magnificent Flagler College.
It's an absolutely beautiful campus. I would have loved to have done my college over and come here. It's absolutely gorgeous.
I'm going to show you one of the unique features. It's kind of a little fun thing. This is medieval in design. And this fencing goes all the way around the campus, which I believe is about 25 to 26 acres. So it has that iron balls with the spikes on it all the way around.
The other thing.
This was originally the Ponce de Leon Hotel, which was built by Henry Flagler. And basically, Henry Flagler not only helped to build St Augustine, but Florida, because he brought the railway here. He was co-founder of Standard Oil and partners with John D. Rockefeller. He built the Hotel Ponce de Leon in 1895 as a grand hotel with 450 rooms, and it was a luxurious hotel. It is constructed from concrete, and it is one of the first and largest concrete structures in America. And as you can see, for those of you who know architecture, it is built in the Spanish Renaissance style. This was one of the first electrically wired structures in the U.S. The hotel was meant for Flagler's rich industrialist friends, but it did not take off. And unfortunately, there's a big thing that happened in the country in the 20s, Denise.
Oh, I'm so depressed.
Yeah, the Great Depression, which pretty much ruined it for him. Flagler built the Florida East Coast Railway, which is now US 1, to bring people into the area to help boost it. Still didn't really help it much. People who did stop here include President Grover Cleveland and President Theodore Roosevelt. Gary Cooper stayed here, as well as John Jacob Astor. One of the things that we want to show you that's really cool about this is here in the distance you can see there's a little rotunda there. That is the dining hall for the college, and a unique feature of it is the Tiffany windows that go all the way around it.
Absolutely gorgeous.
They put bulletproof glass on this side, so it's kind of hard to see them. See, here's some more of that medieval fencing that goes all the way around.
Unfortunately, people were trying to destroy those beautiful windows.
But yeah, it's really hard to see them here on the day. But those are some of the most expensive and beautiful, intricate Tiffany glass windows. Cool little fountain here. This is an example of some of the Tiffany glass, just so you guys can get a feel for what it looked like, and then we'll come around the outside so you can kind of see. Here's the coquina that it's built from. Gorgeous campus. But here's that dining hall up here, and then the Tiffany glass windows. It's really hard to see with the sun shining on them, I know.
This is that glass.
And the safety glass in front of it. So very cool. Just gorgeous.
Absolutely beautiful.
All right, back out to Cordova Street. So, of course, Flagler College is haunted. It became a college in 1968, and that's when a lot of the reports of ghosts started happening. Several ghosts apparently haunt here. Those spirits include Henry Flagler, of course, his wife, there's a little boy, Flagler's mistress, and not a lady in white, Denise,
but a lady in blue.
Flagler supposedly walks the corridors and occasionally startles the students in their dorm rooms. His mistress, who committed suicide by hanging herself from a chandelier on the 4th floor, is still sometimes seen as a residual haunt hanging from that chandelier. Ida Alice was the name of Flagler's wife, and she is seen staring at a wall where his portrait used to hang. So I don't know why, but that seems to be a residual one as well. The lady in blue is seen in various areas as a full-bodied apparition that is residual because she bumps into furniture. So apparently they've moved it around in a way that she doesn't remember it being, and she doesn't seem to react to the furniture in an appropriate way, as like trying to walk around it if she was intelligent. So, and she doesn't walk through it either, so she is full-bodied, just bumps into it and then reroutes herself and keeps moving. The little boy apparently is quite mischievous. He likes to tease girls. One girl claims she was awakened from her sleep by a voice whispering in her ear, "Come play with me."
That would completely freak me out.
He has been seen wearing knickers and running in the hallways. So that was Flagler College. Here's a statue of Henry Flagler outside of Flagler College, and we're going to show you another one of the fun features of this college. Isn't that cool? It's got lions on the outside of it. Just gorgeous. Look at all the detail and the work there.
I just keep saying,
these are the gates that you go through.
Could you imagine going to school here? This is almost as cool as going to Hogwarts.
Just look at this. So you can imagine it in its heyday as a hotel for the rich and famous. Here's one of the fun features. This is a fountain, which is basically a sundial. You see there are 4 turtles in the middle there. They represent the 4 seasons of the year. There's 12 frogs all around that are the 12 hours of the day. And that middle part is a sundial. And does it look kind of like something? The hilt of a sword stuck into the ground. So very, very fun feature. Cordova Street down there, and we just kind of detoured a little bit so that we could come up here and show you the fountain and a little bit more, there's Denise, of Flagler College. But right up the road, I just wanted to show you this really cool building. This is the Villa Zorayda Museum. Just very cool design. It's not on Cordova Street, but it's close enough that I wanted to include it in the tour for you guys. It's also known as the Zorayda Castle, and for obvious reasons, because it looks like a castle. It's built in the Moorish Revival style, and it's inspired by the 12th century Moorish Alhambra Palace in Granada, Spain. It was built in 1883 by millionaire Franklin W. Smith for his home. So this guy built that to be his house.
Very cool. I wouldn't mind a house like that.
It was the first home that was built in that style in Florida. Smith engineered the use of poured concrete mixed with coquina, and that was used by other builders like Flagler. So he was the first one to do it with concrete and coquina. Just painted really cool. It is a museum today. There's a large collection of all kinds of interesting artifacts inside. Not reputed to be haunted, but just a really cool building, so we thought we'd share that with you guys. The next place we're heading is right across the street from the former Ponce de Leon Hotel. This was another hotel. Today it's the Lightner Museum. But what did it used to be, Denise?
That used to be the Hotel Alcazar. This was the second grand hotel that Henry Flagler built. It's made from poured concrete as well. Alcazar means castle in Arabic. What made this Hotel Alcazar different from Hotel Ponce de Leon is the recreational activities offered. There was a bowling alley, casino, tennis courts, movie theater, and a large indoor swimming pool. We're going to talk about that one in just a little bit here. The third floor was a ballroom. The hotel closed during the Great Depression in 1931. It was vacant until 1946. Then Otto C. Lightner came to town and bought the beautiful building to house his collections. Lightner had made his money as the publisher of Hobbies magazine. His collection was a large number of items dated back to the Gilded Age. Those items included antique musical instruments, Louis comfort, Tiffany's stained glass art, science exhibits, paintings, and sculptures. The lobby looks much the same as it did when it was a hotel, with terrazzo floors and crystal chandeliers. Lightner is actually buried on the property, and his ghost is said to haunt the place. Two German tourists claimed that they stopped by the museum one night to take pictures when a man approached them by the gate. They asked him questions, and he seemed to ignore them. The next day, they went to the museum to complain about how rude that he was. One of the women stopped when she saw the man in a portrait in the museum. It was O.C. Lightner. Another man has claimed in an internet story that he felt an angry female spirit in the Tiffany room.
A little bit closer to the Lightner Museum. Also want to direct your attention across the street to Casa Monica. This is a hotel as well. Franklin Smith, who is the guy that built that really cool looking castle via Zorayda up the road there, purchased this plot of land here from Henry Flagler, and Smith designed the Casa Monica Hotel in the same Moorish Revival style as his home. So it has a kind of same, see across the top there how it's got kind of a castle look to it. The hotel did not do well, and Smith soon found himself selling the property back to Henry Flagler. Flagler changed the name to Hotel Cordova, and it flourished until the stock market crash. A bridge once connected Hotel Alcazar, which is now the Lightner Museum over here, to the Cordova Hotel. The Cordova closed in 1932 and it stood empty until 1962. It was converted into the St. John's Courthouse at that time. Then Richard Kessler was looking for a place to store his art, and he bought the property in 1997. And the dining room and all the rooms inside were renovated in a Moorish design. Kessler spared no expense when it came to the furnishings. There are replicas of 17th century Austrian imperial chairs, red walls, terrazzo floors, full-length paintings, and handmade Moroccan lights. On the third floor is a painting of a woman who creepily seems to follow passers-by with her eyes. There are stories of a lady in white here as well. One employee claims that she whispered to her. Guests complain of noises coming from rooms above them at night, like doors opening and closing loudly, loud thumping. Employees will tell them that nobody is staying in the rooms above them. Employees claim the hotel is very haunted, but they seem to keep a lot of those stories to themselves. Across from the Lightner Museum is the Old City House Inn and Restaurant.
And alas, it's another bed and breakfast.
Yes, indeed. It dates back to 1873. The architecture is Spanish colonial revival. The coquina facade is made from coquina found on the property. A sentry station had been here prior to the house, and it's believed the coquina came from that, so it's built from a sentry station. It is believed that this was once meant to be the stable of the Amadown mansion that was next door. Either here or here.
Probably here though, because that mansion burned down.
Yeah, so it's not here anymore. The B&B has only been here for about 10 years and it's undergone significant renovations. It's believed that there's one ghost here that dates back to the time of the Spanish sentry station. A Spanish guard accidentally killed himself when his musket misfired. He seems unaware that he's dead and is seen still keeping his post and watch. See any Spanish soldiers anywhere? And there's the Casa Monaco Hotel. So as you can see, this is right here. We've got the Lightner Museum we're up against, and this is all coming down Cordova Street. So this is still part of the Lightner Museum as we're coming down the street here. Just see how neat this building is, and it goes on for quite a ways. Just really neat architecture here. This is the entrance to the Cafe Alcazar. And this is what we're going to tell you more about that swimming pool that's inside here. It's a very unique restaurant. As we mentioned earlier, the Lightner Museum had a large indoor swimming pool. It measured 120 feet by 50 feet, and it was fed from an underground spring. Cafe Alcazar is located in the deep end of that now dry swimming pool, and Denise and I have actually eaten here before.
Yeah, fun fact, it was really fun. We had lunch there with Diane's parents, the first time we ever came to St. Augustine.
That is right. This was the world's largest indoor swimming pool in its heyday. There are 3 floors of balconies that rise above it. There doesn't seem to be much haunting Cafe Alcazar, but there are residual sounds that people report of splashing water, laughing, talking. Yes. Nobody's really seen anything, but they just hear some residual sounds. Just continue down Cordova Street. We'll show you a little bit. I'm sorry for the wind. I'm sure it's picking it up. I'll just show you the tail end of the Lightner Museum, and that will conclude our walking ghost tour of Cordova Street here, St. Augustine, Florida. Just really cool architecture here. One of the reasons why we just love this city. And there's old city wall everywhere. Just across the street, random wall. That's coquina. Old city
see it going all the way down the street. Just beautiful, beautiful.
Here's the back of the Lightner Museum, so you can get a feel for the architecture here. That's neat. Don't you love these old oak trees here in Florida too? They're just great. All right, well, this has been Diane
And Denise.
You take care now.
Bye-bye.